So on this subject of information, upcoming public meetings, Phyla Rogers, who regrettably was not able to be here this evening, wanted to make sure we knew and the CAG members knew about this upcoming series of meetings sponsored by FEMA with respect to their hazardous fire risk reduction program. There's a draft EIS, Environmental Impact Statement, that is out and will be available for comments all the way to June 17th, and there's a series of meetings on the EIS, starting tomorrow night, in fact, 2 to 4 p.m. at the Richard Trudeau Center on Skyline Boulevard. There's another one at the same location from 6 to 8, and then on Saturday, this Saturday, May 18th, at the Claremont Middle School on College Avenue in Oakland from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. So there are some handouts on this if you'd like to check that out. Suzanne has copies of it, but that is a somewhat relevant subject here, given our subject tonight of emergency preparedness and evacuation. This deals with the mitigation of fire risk under the FEMA program. Now, Carol, you also had an item before we get into our final topic for this evening, which concerns upcoming CAG meetings, and we want to get your feedback on the upcoming schedule and some of the topics that have been proposed. But Carol, you said you had an item you wanted to bring up. I don't know if it was related to the FEMA, but...
Related to the FEMA.
Okay.
Go ahead. That's something that everybody should be concerned about, since there's a plan, basically, from everything I've heard, to do clear cutting in Strawberry Canyon. Because the strange notion that that's going to reduce fires. The fire chief that was here last time had very sensible things to tell us about how he deals with the fire dangers. Clear cutting was not part of the plan. After the clear cutting, you get rampant growth that is considered undesirable, and also, not only erosion, but more landslides. Trees hold the soil together much better than most things do. And I hope that people will pay attention to this and be able to attend at least one of the meetings. After all, and you can't trust FEMA anymore. They brought us a lot of the damage in Katrina by their methods, and they're bent on denuding all of the waterways in California of any vegetation. They don't like it for some reason, known only to them. And they have other strange ideas that they keep coming up with. They used to have more sense. Before, that's why I think people who have an interest in this and understand what the issues are should be going to these meetings.
Okay. Very good. Thank you for that. And you recall last meeting, Gary, the fire chief of the lab, showed the lab's approach, which I think the CAG members in general responded very positively to, and it reflected the kind of design and wildlife, vegetation management that Carol is speaking of now. Chris?
I'll just follow up on what Carol said. I spent a lot of today reading portions of the draft EIS that she's talking about, and to the extent that I can understand it, they seem to just dismiss out of hand essentially the fire protection management plan that we heard about last time. So I have a question for the lab, and that's really, is that plan described in any form in a report or something? I think it ought to be sent to FEMA so that they could see that there is a very responsible agency which has seen another method. And if there isn't such a report, I wonder if Gary's talk to us is available in any form that might be submitted.
Yeah. Good point. And certainly he could go to the meetings and make those testimonial presentations as well. I don't know. Glenn, did you want to respond?
Well, I don't know that we actually have a report. I suspect that we do. We're happy to make the presentation materials available. Now, yes, it's on the CAG website, so that would be something that would be an immediately available resource. I don't think that LBL invented that particular approach to fire management. In fact, if you recall from the presentation, Gary presented model calculations that validate, and they've been validated through experience, that if you do this, then the maximum fire height is X and that kind of thing. So it's a fairly well prescribed situation, but we'll be happy to look into any reports. I just don't know if we have one.
Yeah, I think it's certainly something to tout. One of the cases here where the CAG uniformly supported this lab management practice, so we would like to convey that to the FEMA organization as well. Okay, so our last item, yes? Another public service announcement?
Well, it's LBL's. Yeah.
What is it?
The corrective measures.
Lawrence Berkeley National Lab Interim Corrective Measures Work Plan available for public notice. Sam, do you want to comment on this one? Here.
It's important.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it wasn't on.
Okay.
We have a plume under the former Bevatron site that we detected, and it's composed of volatile organic compounds, VOCs. When that happens, we notify the Department of Toxic Substances Control, DTSC, immediately, and we work with DTSC on developing a plan. And so we have been in communication with them. We have developed a plan for how to remediate this in the near term to deal with the immediate issue. They asked us to send the description of that plan out for public comment, and we have done that, and there is a public comment period for that plan, which is described in this notice. I believe we sent a copy of this to all the CAG members, so CAG members received copies of the notice. No? That's the summary of the plan, but that refers you to the people at DTSC who have all the information and who will receive the public comments.
Okay, well, DTSC, of course, is being sued as we speak for not doing ethical things. Let's hope they can get it straight now, because these are very serious problems. And I want to know if the City of Berkeley Toxics Department has been notified, because that water goes through Strawberry Creek and North Branch, and also the Coast Guard, because it will go out into the bay.
The City of Berkeley has been notified.
Okay.
If you are nodding that you didn't receive this notice, we'll be happy to send it to all the CAG members after this meeting. And the public comment period runs until when?
30 days starting on
May 7th.
It's on the notice.
30 days from May 7th. So it's on the notice.
Did that have been sent to us from the lab or via Daniel's organization?
So
Would have been.
The CAG wasn't included. It's on our environmental document list, but we're happy to send it to CAG and they'll come from me.
We'll make sure the CAG gets it. And if for that matter, if all CAG members would like to be included on the environmental document list, we'll be happy to include all of you. So we thought that you were on that list. Carol's on the list, so she gets it, I know.
Yeah. Maybe we should just put everybody on.
So we'll put all the CAG members on the list unless there's anyone who doesn't want to be on the list.
Yeah.
So you'll receive all environmental documents that come from the lab.
makes sense. Okay, so finally, on this last item for this evening, the topics for upcoming CAG meetings. You do have, along with your agenda tonight, a single-page summary of topics from the meetings this year and what's coming up, and other possible topics that were brainstormed by you, I believe, in our January meeting of this year. So just to refresh your memories, we have July 15th, September 16, November 18, and we wanted to work with you this evening to see if we can schedule out these upcoming meeting topics. So at this point, synthetic biology was proposed as a topic for September 16th. It was a requested topic, as all of these are, 1 through 14 on the list here. Just to review, also for 18th, we had the suggestion of looking at Old Town redevelopment and an update on the lab's sustainability plan, which is 1 year from the presentation that John Elliott presented back in November of last year. Other topics: bird safe building standards, East Bay mud regarding the volume of lab water, that came up again, Carol mentioned it tonight, energy use at the CRT building, the Strawberry Canyon Protection Program, that idea, leveraging the benefits of the lab from a community standpoint, shuttle bus, taxpayer cost of user facilities, the cost of building on the hill itself given the seismic engineering requirements. Looks like that number 4 and number 9 are the same. The tritium plume, nano research, the long-range development plans at the Hill versus the Richmond Bay campus. What have we learned? How are we using the best practices from the past LRDPs for the Richmond case? Inviting the UC Berkeley chancellor and inviting a Brookhaven CAG member to attend one of our meetings, since the Brookhaven CAG has been mentioned as a analog to what we're doing here with the Lawrence Berkeley Lab. Sam, on this list, and I'll get to you, Lynn, in a second.
So I was just going to say these are all taken from suggestions from CAG members, and we've been trying to schedule items on the CAG agendas that CAG members have requested, and I think we've gone through a number of them, but there was a discussion among CAG members about wanting to pick particular agenda dates for particular items. So we thought we would bring this back, and the CAG can participate in discussing what you would like to see when, and we're happy to try to accommodate whatever your desires are, unless there's something that causes us to not be able to be ready by a particular date, or like the review of the long-range development plan for the Richmond Bay campus and how it might affect the Hill plan. Obviously, we don't have an LRDP yet, but we could do that at such time as we do have one that's adopted and completed.
Right. And so at this point, you were just putting synthetic biology there as a possible topic.
As a possible topic. That was one of the topics the CAG had suggested, and we could prepare for that and have that on a September meeting if the CAG would like. We don't have anything scheduled for the next CAG meeting, so if the CAG has a feeling about something you'd like to see next week. Some of these topics are longer or shorter than others, like the bird safe construction standards. We're happy to report on that, but that might be a 10-minute, 15-minute presentation. Some of them are much more involved, and some of them relate to items we've already had on the CAG agenda, but we have some new CAG members. If you want to revisit some of the ones we've had in the past, we can bring them back as well.
Some of those old chestnuts, you want to hear them again. So, wait a minute, Lynn and Polly and Carol. Okay.
A question and a suggestion. The question is this list in the order of priorities that we...
No priority.
Okay, so that just...
Whatever you want to do. We did have a prioritization exercise, and...
These are generally the highest priority
they are.
items as a group.
But we did not imply an order there on those items.
Yeah, and the suggestion I have is to add this corrective measures, to have a presentation so that people understand what the plan is and how it would be implemented.
You mean related to this
Yeah.
water quality? Okay. That would be another one. There's no limitation on these topics. This is just what we called out so far.
Well, and if they have other topics to
Sure.
suggest and want to schedule, we can do that tonight. Corrective measures, okay.
Predictably, since I work with the Chamber of Commerce in the city of Berkeley, I would really like to see number 5, how the lab better leverages its benefits. I'd like to see us discuss that. I would guess you probably have a fair amount of information at hand about how many people you employ in the city and contracts with local businesses and that sort of thing. But I think that would be interesting to me particularly, but I'm guessing to everybody. And then are there ways to better get the lab engaged in the community?
Yeah. And just to recap, Holly, we did a session with the lab's procurement officer talking about the vendor outreach and participation program. That was maybe over a year ago, something like that.
6 months ago, Becky Cornett, the Director of
Okay.
Procurement, came and made a presentation, and we coupled that with the Director of Human Resources, who also talked about employment and recruiting. And
Yeah,
That was before I was on.
Exactly.
You've done it that way.
well,
right. But this one, number 5, does include that, but I think the spirit in which that was suggested also means other aspects of the lab being here, like science in the schools or lectures that are given by lab personnel on scientific issues and topics of interest to the community. Any number of ways the lab could benefit the community. Certainly there are those direct as well as indirect, some of the cultural things. I think that's what was meant by this number 5.
Elucidating what you do and then ideas of ways to do more.
That's
Get your name out there and share the wealth as it were.
right. Yes, and there's no reason we can't come back to the issue of local procurement as well. It's just we did cover that, and we're trying to be responsive to the CAG as a whole and make sure we.
Well, everybody doesn't have to sit through it because
Right.
I wasn't.
All right. Well, we'll get back to it. So let's see, Carol and Phil. Okay.
Well, in the light of the discussion about Strawberry Canyon and some agencies' plans for it, I was thinking maybe we could do number 9 plus 10, whatever. No, the other one too. There are 2 of them about the
4
same.
and 9. That covers
Yeah.
2 at once.
And so that might be good, but I think we also should be able to have long and short items. And I think one of the short items I would like to look at again, see where things are, is the tritium plume. I'd like to know where it is
Okay.
nowadays.
well, we had for those new members, we had a presentation on groundwater contamination and treatment, and that was a full CAG presentation for a full evening. Now, we could go back and revisit that. Preston Jordan, I think, made that presentation, but I don't think that's. I mean, if you have a focus for that presentation, maybe it could be short, but it was a lengthy, hour and a half presentation.
He really wasn't discussing the plume per se. He was going into a lot of geology that wasn't directly connected. I know one was geology, and the plume was not very clear or specific. We might get someone else to do the plume.
Okay. And that was another angle that we are open to suggestions of specific speakers, presenters, and our own CAG members. We've had Phyla Rogers, we've had Carol do presentations, and we can continue on those tracks as well. Yeah.
Rich was supposed to do a presentation.
And Rich was lined up, that's right.
And he fell
Okay.
down on the job.
Okay, so he was going to do it on nano research.
The question was just a sort of a general background on.
Okay, okay,
I think that would be very beneficial
Okay.
for us to hear
So we have Phil and Elizabeth and Rich that wanted to comment here.
I would like to hear a short presentation about bird-safe building standards and anything else that's sort of specific to the local environment, the birds and nature kind of stuff. But unfortunately, I will not be here for the July 15th meeting, so I'd love that to be scheduled for a different time, and short is fine.
Okay, well, that's
mostly just I want to know, like, to what extent the lab is actually, doing anything or not.
sure. So that's good specific direction.
That's my request.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it meets everyone else's approval. And another similarly along the same lines, actually, of something that I actually thought would be of interest to more people in this group, but apparently it's just my little hobby horse to ride, but I'll throw it out there also. The shuttle bus, I'm currently butting heads a bit with the lab about traffic issues related to whether the shuttle service is meeting requirements for traffic mitigation. I'm happy to pursue that the way I've been doing it, just internally at the lab, unless other people on this committee think that's a big issue, in which case it maybe could be scheduled for a future CAG meeting as well.
Well, if there's general interest, we could have a presentation on the lab, an overview of lab transportation system. Again, we have had those, but it's been a while. It's been a couple of years, I think, since we
do an update.
We could do an update.
Okay.
And you have a new vendor too, right?
Bill, can you ask for electric shuttles?
Oh, we're nowhere near.
Why hasn't somebody
Let's crawl before we walk.
Okay. Let's get Rich and Elizabeth.
I wonder if in the light of Al's very nice presentation, I wonder if there's a follow-up to that would be of interest. Obviously this is happening in July, so it would be later downstream, maybe November or something, but I wonder
He
if
could
lessons learned from
report back on lessons learned from the evacuation. Would you, Al?
Sure.
We can schedule that.
I think that would be of interest.
So maybe September, November, we have at sometime after July, we have a report back. Okay.
Okay.
I know Panoramic Hill, we hold in September, early October, we hold our own little emergency response and coordination, and we try and get Oakland and Berkeley Fire involved as well. So I just wanted to kind of like, November might be good just to build in some practical response from our community and stuff.
Evacuation? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that one where you think it would be useful to have someone from the community come also and talk?
It actually would, and maybe we just get in touch and I can help coordinate that through the Panoramic Hill Association.
Okay. Good.
And that's another
Community people.
right. For the reason we were talking about the gardens and the Hall of Science, we want to promote a coordinated community approach. It's a great idea.
So this is about birds. I think that the building standards should be when you're around. But there are several things here, and birds is one of them. Cost is another one. That Jennifer has been so responsive to our requests about the presentation that she makes about the construction, that a possible way of addressing these ongoing and repeated concerns is to actually have them be part of the update. So when Jennifer introduces a new building, she can say, and this is funded by energy or private or whatever, and it's got the best bird standards in the universe. And, well, it's just like it's just like updating about lead standards and stuff like that. It's sort of like a routine data element that it's fine to talk once about challenges to doing bird-friendly buildings, but then it seems to me as if several of these items that are of interest and concern are kind of like standard things. So instead of having big presentations about standard things, it's just like a data point. It's not so I like the idea, back to Sam's point about small items and large items. I think having something that has a substantial amount of time, such as Al's presentation, there was a lot of time for dialogue. And so the amount of information he presented was probably 45 minutes of the hour, roughly, who's counting. But he stopped giving input after about a half an hour, and then the rest of it was all responsive to the things that people were interested in. So I think that giving enough time for people to actually, you know, get things addressed that they're particularly interested in is a good thing to do. So little updatey things are little updatey things, but let's not confuse information transmission, which is actually better done in other formats, with discussion, which is better done to get this many people around the table.
Yeah, instead of just talking.
Okay, cool. So here, I'm just putting S and L for short or long. I mean, the strawberry would probably be longer as an item. I don't think that's a short discussion.
Well, and that was Phila's item.
Right.
So it,
The shuttle update could probably be short.
Mostly I want to know, maybe there's a question, we even know what ridership is by year or by month or whatever. Is it up, down, or flat?
Well, I don't think it's short, but it may not be a full hour.
Medium.
It's somewhere in between short and long. Medium.
Tritium, I mean, we have talked about it before. We can couple that with water. Again, it could be a major.
Maybe corrective measures, because they're both related to,
Bring that in, okay, we could.
Makes sense to do that actually next meeting.
Can we do that?
So we'll put the interim corrective measures on the agenda for the next meeting.
Okay.
And is there a desire? There's a desire to have a discussion of the tritium plumes on that agenda as well. A recap, update.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And SynBio on the 16th of September, as was proposed. You have some sense, Sam, that we can get some people lined up for that date?
We should be able to.
Ask the lab if they would get somebody to do the work to find out about the Leonard Aquifer. You're sitting on a lot of water, and the Shively wells and its progress down the hill, it goes into the North Branch of
Okay.
You don't know anything about it.
Sure we do.
What?
I'm not prepared to
questions and I haven't
give
gotten an answer.
we'll definitely have an update on it. There are dozens of wells that are drilled over the years.
Okay.
July water meeting, well, whatever.
Okay. We'll list it as a potential addition.
So add that to July.
We've asked if you know how deep it is, how wide it is.
How much water?
How much water?
Is that a goal? We'll share what we
Yeah, it is
if
with.
there's general interest, we'll share.
Please know these things,
What's
but
that?
keeping it a secret.
Okay.
Yes, it's a deep dark secret.
Okay, we'll bring it
Well,
back.
Carol, we'll put that on the agenda next. So the next week we'll have corrective measures, update on tritium plume, and we'll discuss the Shively well and
Any other
water.
questions before the group? I nominate that Carol comes up with a list
I'll bring some water too.
of all the water issues that should be
Okay.
dealt with.
I think it'll be President Jordan that will be giving that
We'll,
again.
we'll follow up and make sure that would make for a fairly substantive
That's a pretty full agenda.
agenda. SynBio, if we go with the 18th, we have time for Al to come back and present the findings from the evacuation exercise. Community members may have their insights from other exercises as well. We have the Old Town sustainability update. So we could have several shorter ones and also, some combinations where they're longer and short and so forth. So
And Phil would like a transportation shuttle update.
where's a good possible time for that?
Maybe
You bet.
Where?
November's probably better because then if there's
We could have a series of updates there. Okay, shuttle,
seasonality, the
bird.
okay.
So that means we would have covered all of these. No, strawberry is not on yet.
Yeah. Well, and we need Phyla
We
for
have to have
strawberry.
Phyla.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So we'll have to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
think,
that's a pretty full.
everybody knows Phyla unfortunately did have a injury, broke her shoulder bone. So she's in recovery mode. Her children are taking care of her? Yeah.
I told her to get dragged.
She probably has to type with one finger or something, but anyhow.
Google Glass. She can do everything.
There's a use for it. Okay, Chris, go ahead.
Well, I don't know when Phyla will be back in motion, so to speak, but I'd suggest that September might be a good placeholder for that. Partly because I think at that time the FEMA EIS might be finalized. I'm not sure of their schedule, but at least the comments are due, I think, in June, and presumably if they get their comments back in June, they probably will have their final out by that time.
Okay. Yeah, and if not, we'll hook up a Skype system and bring Phyla in that way. I mean, so there's always a way to do it. Rich?
Just one quick question on the FEMA thing. I'm going to have to look into this because this is the first I've heard about it. Are there institutional, is there expectation that there are going to be institutional responses? Is UC, Berkeley, or?
The FEMA thing is not a FEMA project. It's a FEMA-funded project that UC Berkeley and some of the neighboring agencies, East Bay Mine and others, will have received a grant for this a long time ago. And it's not really clear-cutting, as we know. It's a fuel mitigation program that involves some cutting of non-native species and redeveloping the hillsides with native plants. So it's a FEMA-funded project done by Oakland and East Bay Regional Forest.
Okay. Thank you. Very good. Thank you. Lynn?
Yeah, I was going to suggest that on the date that the synthetic biology is presented, it might be a good time to talk about nano research, so it might be sort of a research-oriented meeting. And the clarification I was wondering about is the item regarding the Strawberry Canyon group, is that they would meet beforehand and make a presentation of their preliminary
ideas.
Yeah, I'm not sure, what the content of that would be.
Okay, could be. We can look into that. Again, we can. What?
It's not synthetic biology, it's the next one down.
Oh, thank you.
Aye.
Very good. You've been tracking my little graphic formats. I appreciate it. Okay. Okay. So the way it's shaping up, July 15th would be looking at all things water. Just suffice it to say, aquifer, Shively Well, corrective actions, tritium plume. It's a water kind of day. September 16th, if we can pull it off, the research-oriented items, synthetic biology, nanotechnology, and then hopefully something on Strawberry Canyon with the possibility of a smaller group meeting beforehand, bringing in some ideas to put on the table. Phyla has provided some broad outlines of that last year, according to her presentation. Maybe we can take that another step. And then November 18th, we get an update on several items. The evacuation exercise at the lab, also with the community experience that Marcos and other homeowner associations may have. Update on sustainability, shuttle, transportation, bird safety standards.
Actually, the bird thing, I agree with Elizabeth. Maybe just let's try folding that into the regular construction updates.
Okay.
And see if that obviates the need for.
Doesn't have to be, okay. Okay, fold into Jennifer
There may not be much to say.
Ridgway presentation. Okay, we will try and do that. And then Old Town redevelopment is a newer topic to come back to. That is a physical development issue at the Hill site. Yes, Jennifer?
I can also talk about the shuttle ridership each month with the updates if you want to do it that way, because I have all that data
Yeah, so maybe that could take a little bit of the pressure off of here. And by the way, didn't you have some statistical data on the CRT? You got a
Yes, so
email transmission during the meeting?
I talked to my project manager, and the CRT, the dimensions of the CRT building, it's not as rectangular as you saw, as we know, is 80 feet by 400 feet.
Substantially non-rectangular. Rectangular, substantially square.
And it's 100 feet tall.
That's the same shape that they were going to put
Originally, before they came up with CRT.
Many different
Very long,
versions.
narrow.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. So, Sam, I think we have quite a good program
I think
ahead.
we have a very full set of items for the next 3 CAG meetings this year, and if we'll run at it and see if we can do them all. And if some of them need to be carried over, we'll carry over.
Absolutely.
To
Very
next
good.
year.
So let me just check. Do we have any members of the community not on the CAG who wish to make a comment before we wrap up tonight's meeting? Anybody? Okay, seeing none, I thank you on behalf of the lab for your participation this evening. Thank you. And we'll see you on July the 15th.